Okay, I'm going to try my best to make this as smooth as possible. It's kind of hard though because I want you to see at the same time, but I'm holding with my hand, so please forgive me for anything. So, this is how to do the physics lab. I have my x and my y positions as a function of time. I did my time in intervals of a half just because I think it looks better in the end. Here are my inputs, degrees, height, all that stuff, etc., etc. I'm assuming you guys know how to just make this happen. All right. So first thing you have to do is create a conditional statement. The conditional statement is based around an if variable. So basically what I did right now was I just clicked if, and I did a parenthesis. So, focus. There you go. So equals if. So the format is a logic test. So if something here is positive, then it's going to look here. If it's negative, it's going to look here. So you need test, comma, what happens if it's true, what happens if it's false. So I'm saying right now, if my y position is positive, or for greater or equal to 0, comma, I just want it to display the y position again. If not, I don't want it to display anything. So now this just popped up. So again, if it's greater than or equal to 0, display it. If not, display nothing. This is just Excel's way of saying nothing. So now I'm just going to drag this down through all my data. There we go. So now if you look, you'll see that only the positive y values coordinate over. So see how it says a negative 16.875? I don't know. It calculated this. It doesn't show it because if I go here, it's not greater than 0. It's not greater than 0, so it doesn't show anything. Fantastic. Now for the hard stuff. Go over, click an empty square. Now this oh, I'm sorry, I missed something. Make sure your conditional statement here is in a column that has nothing else above it or below it. Make sure the conditional itself is the only thing there, or else it will screw stuff up. So click an empty square. Any square, really. Go up top, go to Format. Hold on, let me see. Can you see this? Formulas. There we go. So go to Formulas. Go over here to Define Name. Okay. Now this is basically creating a series of numbers, a data set, if you will. So this is going to come up, this new name. I'm going to call this Chart Data. Okay. I'm calling it Chart Data. Scope, workbook. You don't need a comment. Okay. So now if you go down here, refers to, I'm deleting all this. This is where it gets wicked complicated, and this took me like an hour and a half to figure this out. So I'm just going to plug it in, and you guys are going to copy it. So I'll give you a sec. Basically what this is saying is, I'm not explaining offset. In sheet 1, $, so this D7, this $D, $7 coordinates to my first conditional position. So see how 80, my first conditional, is in D7? So what I did here is in sheet 1, $D, $7. So yours might be a little different, yours might be the same, that'd be kind of coincidental. I don't know why I said that, but $D, $7. So whatever position your first conditional is in. Great. Now, comma 0, comma count, comma sheet 1, exclamation point. Sorry, sheet 1, exclamation point up here too. And now what I'm doing is I'm selecting the column that my conditional is in. So see how my conditional is in D? This is why I told you not to put it where any other numbers are, because this wouldn't matter. So sheet 1, I'm doing $D, colon, $D. So it's looking down the entire column and counting the amount of numbers it sees. Okay? And it's only in one column, so comma 1 and parenthesis. So again, offset, sheet 1, exclamation point. The position of your first conditional, mine's in D7, so $D, $7, comma 0, comma count 1, comma count, parenthesis, sheet 1, exclamation point, $D, whatever column your conditional is in, colon, $D, parenthesis, comma, 1, parenthesis. Fantastic. Now remember, before you do this, to copy this statement. We're going to use it again in 1 second. So you click OK. Nothing pops up because it just created a system within the computer. So now we're going to create another name. Okay, so actually if we were to go into Name Manager, you see how chart data is right here and it has its condition. So great, close. We're creating a new one, define name. This one I'm going to call my X values. I'm typing with one hand, so sorry if it seems a little slow. So this refers to, again, the same thing as the last, and I'm going to hit my Control V because this is the same exact thing from the last one. However, the only thing we change is, remember how we were looking at the first conditional statement here, wherever the, wherever the first conditional is, so mine's in D7, that's why I did $D, $7. I'm now changing this to the position of my first X. So the reason I'm doing this, I'll explain later, it'll make a lot of sense later, but make sure it goes to your X value. So my first X value is in C7. So what I'm gonna do is I plug in C7. The rest stays the same. Oops, sorry. The rest stays the same, except for $C, $7. And that just coordinates to my X. So the rest is the same. I just changed this to the first X in my set. Okay, great. So now if I go to Name Manager, I have these two things, chart data, X values, and the only thing they differ by, see how this one's C, that one's D. Fantastic. So I'm now going to go into an empty space in the sheet. I'm going to go up here to Insert. Oh, come on. There we go. Insert. I'm going to go over to this graph. Now I'm going to make sure I click this one, 2D line. I know it might sound a little odd, but you need to make it as a line before you can convert it to a scatter plot. So here is your blank line. Make sure it's blank. If something's there, you did something wrong. I don't know what you did. So now what we're going to do is go over to Select Data. Okay. Over here, Legend Entries. This is going to be our Y position. This is our Y series. So I'm going to hit Add. And now remember, I named that my first series, Chart Data. So I now type in chart data because now it's looking back into the computer and saying, oh, I have this thing called chart data. It's a series of numbers. I'm going to graph it. Delete this series values. Instead, click equals. Click some random place in here. Delete everything. So you now just have, hold on, focus. Chart data equals sheet 1 exclamation point. And then what you're going to type is chart data. So I have chart data here equals sheet 1 chart data. So it's saying the series is called chart data, and the series number values is found in sheet 1 under chart data. All right, so we hit OK. So now if you look, it has this really nice parabolic curve that only goes up to the point that it stops. However, the problem is that if you look at the x-axis, it just is displaying time instead of your x position. So this is why we created two series earlier. So now I go into Edit my horizontal, and I label this. Now I click a random thing, and I delete everything up to sheet 1 exclamation point, and I type in x values. So now again, I went and I hit OK. And again, now I went and I added chart data, and then I edited over here. And, oops, sorry. I edited over here, and I just put in my x values. Now I hit OK. And if you look, just because it's a line, it displays all the actual positions. So now what I have to do, so now you actually do technically have your y versus x function. The reason mine starts up there is because my initial height was 80. I mean, see, if I change it to 0, then it will just correct it down to the origin. Great. So now what I have to do is I click the graph. I go up here to design. I move my cursor to change chart type. This pops up. and I go over to XY scatter, I click my XY function, I click OK, and bada bing, bada boom, it turns into a scatter plot. And then I can add my axes, you can name those whatever you want, and that's it. So if I were to now go over here, I don't know why it's 107, that's a terrible number, and say change it to 50 at 30 degrees, it changes and only shows what it needs to show. If I were to show 45 degrees, it changes. So if you actually look at my conditional statement, say I change this to 60 degrees, the amount of conditionals actually changes, and that's what's affecting the graph. So it's this combination of conditionals and your formulas up here, these things. Alrighty, I hope you guys get it. If you have any questions, if something's horribly wrong, just give me a text and I can take a look at it. Yeah, so have a nice day.